welcome back, everybody, to Maniacal Music Musings. I'm your host, Jeremy, as always. I'm used to it being the Earth First Me. There is so much evidence of other podcasts trying to be us. But don't worry, y'all, because mutilation is the most sincere form of flattery. You all know, though, if I was your vampire, like you think I am, that I'd let you eat me and drink me. Giggity. Well, at least until we find some form of sustenance. It's only a car crash away. But what can I say? The devastation of my spirit is almost too much to live for. Until I met this man, my co-host. He's originally a star of Mega Kung Fu Radio, but he's been also called a public menace, a freak, and even a human fly. Ever since he was 21, legalism has been a problem for him. His lady stranded him for putting holes in her happiness and killing her spirit. He wants to break his neck bone in a car crash because he says, hell, even Superman shot himself. Chancy motherfucking Greif.
Hi.
That was the most genuine hi ever, Chancy. After like 90-something episodes, that's the most genuine hi ever. But yes, that's right, folks. Your musers are back once again. Thank you for making me laugh, Chancy. And thank you, Harley, for showing some support, always. We are joined by another great music guest to have some fun tonight and talk about 3 very different albums, but we'll get into that in a bit. Our guest tonight is Blake Isbell, singer and all-around artist, and we're happy to have him. How you doing tonight, Blake?
Doing great. So I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to dive into these albums and figure out why the selections have been made the way that they have.
Oh, I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are dying to hear that. I really am. But yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. That's all in due time. But why don't you start off by just telling us what got you into being a singer?
Well, before I answer your question, I was going to say I thought you were actually introducing me as your co-host because you said something about legalism and being stranded, and I got really confused for a second. I was like, oh, I'm the co-host? And then you said Chancy, and my dreams were crushed. So no, I'm just kidding. But what got me into being a songwriter? Well, teenage depression is when I started writing songs, and then I fell in love with it. I found it to be a way for me to express myself the best way that I could. And then it just kind of became just like kind of like some type of calling for me. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do with my life type thing. And it's kind of like my life's goal to document my whole life story over the course of all my music. And each album represents like a different chapter of my life.
Well, shit. All right, there you go. I mean, I did read your Spotify profile, so I do kind of want to hear your first album. Like, I'm kind of like gonna check that out in the next coming weeks when I have a chance, because what they say about it kind of had me like, ooh, like it's fantasy. Like, I don't know. They say it's like a fantasy version of like your college life in a way, and I'm like, all right, this is kind of interesting. I kind of got to look into this now because they make it sound very whimsical and amazing, which I gotta go see, if that's right. But I don't know. I don't know if that's what you meant it to sound like, but I mean, that's how Spotify
yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. So my first album's about my first college experience. I went to 3 different colleges. So my second album is about my second college experience. And you'd think my third album would be about my third college experience, but it's not. It's about something else. That cycle kind of broke there on the third album. But yeah, I loved my first college experience so much. It's my favorite college experience, one of my favorite experiences of my life. And so I on purposely made it this concept album based around this fairy tale type thing. And it's like all of the songs kind of tell one big story while also being their own individual songs and tales. So it's really cool.
Oh, there you go. And I mean, that's funny because I actually went to 2 colleges myself, and I definitely enjoyed the first one more than the second one. That's for fucking sure. But I also was living on the first one, so that was the difference. Living on campus is 100% different than living at home and having to go to campus. It's 100% different thing. It's more fun. It's more of a fun life. But well, what album did you want to bring us today, and why do you want to bring that one?
Well, I brought my third album called Deconstruction to the podcast, and it is my most recent work that I've released. And so I I really haven't had like a whole. I'm really interested to hear people's perspectives on certain things because my relationship with the album is very um, biased in a way because I wrote this album in a very dark place. And when I wrote this album, it was just me trying to process my life and process how am I going to make it through this time. And it's like, it was just like I always say, like my songwriting took on its original form that it started off with in the teenage depression, because that was up to this point my darkest time in my life by far, is the time of the life that album is about. And so the songs were like an expression of me trying to process things and get it out in a kind of a therapeutic type way. And so there are 2 or 3 songs in particular that almost everybody will say are their favorites. But I'm very curious. I'm like, this is a top 5 list. So I'm going to get some other songs than just those 2 songs from you guys. So I wanted to hold y'all hostage and get your opinions on, on some of these tracks.
Well, as much as Chancy likes being held hostage, I will give my review first. Because since listening to this album this morning for a good couple hours, because I had to keep, like I told you before we went live, I had to keep rewinding because I kept getting like phone calls and having to go back and start tracks over because I'd be like, where the hell did I leave off? Or my phone would kick in and put it back in the music I was listening to in my car. Spotify can be a bitch like that. But at first, when the album first started, because I listened to samples of it when you sent it to me last week, and I was like, when I was trying to pick my album, which we'll get into later. But when I started listening to it fully from the beginning, because I like to jump around for samples, not just stick to like one track. I like to jump around and hear different tracks, like to get an idea. But starting with the first track, I was just like, at first I was like, I don't know about this, and then slowly as it got into other tracks, I was like, okay, I can relate to this. I can relate to that. I know plenty of people can relate to this track. Like, so I feel like it's very relatable music. Like, I feel like the themes are very relatable for a lot of people in today's world. And I feel like I can feel.
I would say it's too bad, but yeah. I see what you're saying, but I'm like, I'm sad other people had to experience those emotions that I experienced.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be too sad because going through shit like that makes you stronger in some ways. So everybody should have to go through a little bit of something here and there to make them toughen up, and especially when they're in college, or especially when they're younger. I mean, you wrote a song about being 21. That's a fucking rough patch in everybody's life, usually at some point, because it's a rough age. I mean, but
yeah,
I mean, and you're not wrong. This album has dark moments. Those tracks I fucking love more than anything else because the dark moments are what I hit with. Like they send me home. I mean, if I had to make any critique about the album, the only critique I'd possibly make is I think you need like a female backup singer. That's the only thing I think would make it a lot better.
Is you know what's like a funny is there is a song on the deluxe version that has a female backup singer.
Oh, I didn't see. I didn't even see a deluxe version on Spotify even. But then
no, it's not released on Spotify. It's only on my website and on this physical version.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, like I always look for like different versions of albums when I'm on Spotify, like for the show. But I didn't. Yeah, I mean that's the only thing I could think. Like, I mean, because your singing is kind of country in a way to me, almost like it's kind of pop country, like similar. I guess is the best way to put it. I mean, so I mean, but not fully. So I would say either you needed to go, either need to embrace like almost a full country with like a female backup singer, because I think it would be a good like harmony. I think it'd be a good harmony, like it's your voice because your voice is fucking incredible. Don't get me wrong, I love your voice. It just needs something else like to set it off, like that sweet voice of like a since I know it's one of your favorites, maybe even like a Taylor Swift voice type thing almost. But
Mhm.
or something similar. I mean, I don't know, either that or go full rock and put some guitar in that shit, man. I mean, like heavy
Mhm.
guitar, like because a lot of your dark songs, if you put some guitar in that shit, you'd be having people play that shit in like freaking clubs, banging that shit. Like
Mhm.
I'm telling you. So I I could see different with your music. And I could see like different ways that I think it should go. I'm not saying you have to listen to me. I'm not saying my opinion matters even, but just
Yeah, that's very interesting because moving forward with my music, I on my first three albums, I was really comfortable in my deeper register. And since recording this album, I've done more exploring in my higher registers of my voice, singing in my head voice and falsetto and stuff. So I moving forward, like in the pop genre, I'm definitely wanting to sing in my higher register more often. You like never hear it on this album specifically. You never hear it. But my producer said that he loved that. He was like, "Well, your deeper voice is like darker, and this is a darker album, so it really like is better with the vibe and stuff." And I'm like, okay. But moving forward, doing pop music, I'm definitely gonna sing. I'm wanting to explore like my higher range of my voice, but also I have considered doing like more of a rock type album with the electric guitars and stuff as well. That's something I've been looking at. So there is some electric guitars on my second album. It is not it's more like a pop rock, and then there's also some country influences, but I knew because I have a few songs I released with like electric guitar that just goes crazy, and my listeners loved that. I'm like, I'm definitely going to want to bring back the electric guitar moving forward because of that.
I mean, trust me, some of these, and you're 100% right. Your producer's right. Like your voice does when the deeper voice tends to lend towards like the darker songs, almost in like a almost I want to say almost like in a Johnny Cash type way. Or there's actually another better example I'm going to give when I get to my top five because in one of the songs I heard it exclusively, and I
Mm,
kind of want to see your face when I say it. But
mm.
it's not bad. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Trust me. But I will not. I'll let Chancy give his review because I got a lot more notes, but that's when I get to my top five. Well, top five plus.
Well, I had to kind of revamp my critique based on information that has literally just been relayed by Blake here. Because I was going to say that one of the things that I was disappointed in, not like oh, this is such a fucking letdown, but like you were saying, there's talent to the voice, but I was really disappointed that there wasn't variance to the register. But with you saying you're now moving into that realm where you're, singing in more falsettos and wider variance to the register itself. Because like there was definitely a lot of like spots and songs where it might have taken it maybe like into another gear if there had been like how they'll go like up down up, or tone up tone back to the register. I was in choir for a while, but I don't know how to read music or anything like that, so I'm garbage at trying to explain what I'm getting across. But literally, you start. It's like you know what I'm talking about. Like you do the regular note, kick up or kick down. Even you do the kick down. I'd heard that. And then when you're talking about this being representative of a specific period in your life, it also made a lot of sense in regards to cyclical nature of some of the tracks on the album itself, where they weren't necessarily like direct replicas, constant repetition of the same thing, but there was definitely like you could take like in Glass or 21 or Taken, there were definitely reference points that you could just connect with string that all kind of connected together. It's like, okay, well it's like you were being in that frame of thought, trying to capture that darkness that you were dealing with, also at the same time got wrapped up in a cyclical style of writing to a certain extent. I mean, obviously you have differences between each song, but there were some things that were kind of mainstays throughout those tracks, and that like I noticed that as well. But yeah, I mean, definitely, like I said, you know, or like Jeremy was saying, you definitely are talented, and I have to, give everybody props who has the guts to actually put it together and put themselves out there like that. I mean, it's more than most people are willing to do. I got a top 5, and I got a nice little joke for my number 1, so that way everybody can have a good laugh. But well, not a laugh necessarily at your expense, but just I like to try and make. I don't know. I'm kind of a humor based kind of fellow. But yeah, like I said, it's an example of this show where someone had once said that they really like it because of the fact that they're able to experience things that they wouldn't necessarily have come across without it. So it's definitely one of those things where I'm glad that I was able to listen to the album, because it's not something that I would have looked for, because it's not necessarily in the Venn diagram of genres that I necessarily find myself in on a regular basis. But as far as that goes, like I said, I would definitely go middle of the road, more on the positive end than the negative end. I'll save my negative connotations and reservations for Jeremy's album, but that's usually how I do things around here.
Sadly, he's not lying. He's not lying. But though I don't think you can do that too much today, but we'll see.
Oh yeah, we'll see. Yeah, you'll see. You'll see.
Well, wait till we get to yours, motherfucker. But
I didn't know that I was allowed to be negative.
Are you kidding me? No, this is a be honest, because shit. Okay. There was one episode where me and the guest spent the majority of the episode just shit talking Jeremy's album, just roasting him through the coals. Mostly just because it was funny.
Yeah. Cottonmouth Kings got ass raped that day. But
I always try to, even if it's something that I absolutely don't like, if it's their album, I really try not to even be super negative about it, because of the fact, like I said, that it's more than most people are willing to do. Nobody's really willing to put themselves out there like that. And the fact that you're doing it now for the 3rd time, you have to at least respect that, even if it's not necessarily something that you would, particularly listen to on a regular basis. It's but that might be because of the whole semi-musical background that I have, not necessarily trying to take away from it.
Exactly. I mean, trust me. Well, okay. Before I say more, even, what are your top 5 in your own album? Because I know you said that you're happy you actually did this, because otherwise it would have been a freaking hard choice for you if you didn't think about it ahead of time. And as I told you, I love it when artists do this to their own albums, because it's the biggest challenge in the world. It's like asking me or Chancy to pick our top 5 episodes of our show. We would have a hard time doing it. Yeah. 90 episodes, that'd be a fucking challenge and a half.
Yeah, it was really difficult picking a top 5, and I guess I should give a disclaimer that this was my top 5 as of last night when I wrote it down. And whenever you're listening to this podcast, my opinion on what my top 5 is will probably have changed by then.
I wouldn't expect anything less from a true musician or artist. I mean, that's kind of how it always is. It's never perfect and it's never done, but it will evolve.
Yeah, and I'm also really glad that I did a top 5, because I wasn't sure if I was supposed to pick the top 5 for my album, but I did, just in case, and it was harder for me to do it for my own album than both of yours. And there's no way in the world I would have been able to do it on the spot. So I'm really glad that I got it beforehand.
Oh, it's funny, because we've had ours with their own albums do it on spot before, and it takes so long for them to even think. They go back and forth so much trying to pick each one.
I'd probably list 7 or 8 and try to pick between them or something. Do you want me to explain, like, just list my 5, or do you want me to go one by one and explain a little bit of why I chose
Oh, explain. I mean, we like
Okay.
to hear the reason why things are picked.
Okay. All right. Let's go. Are we ready?
Oh, we're ready.
All right. So at number 5, I have a song that I know are some of my listeners' favorite, and that is Glass, the second track on the album. So I have this. It made my list because I really love the production of this song a lot. Me and my producer, we came up with pretty much all the production just like on the fly, and I made a huge contribution to the production elements of the song, and I'm so happy with how it turned out because the song to me really like came to life. The whole idea of being close to somebody and it's kind of toxic, and you can't talk to them about the problems that you have because they're gonna shatter, and in the process you shatter because you're not talking about it. And the song just really, when I listen to it, I can really feel like the tension and the stress and the build, and the production really helps a lot with that. And I also know that my listeners, this is a common song that people have told me that they really connect with on the album, and it's just fun for me to listen to. I love listening to it. It's really cool. I don't particularly think that the style I did on this album is one that I'm going to use a whole lot on other albums. I did try to get really creative with some of these songs and tried to capture like how I was feeling in that time of my life in the most creative way possible, while also trying my best to make sure that they felt like they went on the same album. And I put it on the list because I listened to it. Like I listened to it pretty well. It's very catchy to me, and I'm really proud of how it turned out. So that one's number 5. Number 4, I picked what is a lot of people's number 1. I picked Legalism for number 4. I had to put Legalism in my top 5 out of respect because I love it when people can really relate to and connect and love my music. Like I really love it when I have a song that really reaches a lot of people in one way or another. And out of respect for the song, I had to put it on the list because I really respect this song as a standout track in my artistry. So I didn't feel like it was a good idea for me to have a top 5 without having it on there somewhere. So as far as like I definitely think it is a good song for the story of the album because Legalism is definitely a part of the darkness. I do think it's an interesting concept for a song. I don't really know off the top of my head another song that specifically addresses the topic of legalism, and it is like a very deep thing that a lot of people experience and go through. So I just have respect for the song. So that's why I have it at 4, and it's catchy and it's fun to listen to. Number 3, I have the other single. Legalism was the lead single, and the other single off the album is Imbalance. And I chose it as another single because it was really catchy. And when I talked with my producer, he said a lot of good things about it, and I was really proud of how it turned out. And that's another song that I hear some people saying that they really love. But Imbalance, yeah, that was such a fun song to write, and for whatever reason, I love the crap out of playing it. Like it's so fun to play. I played it live last week, and I actually did a mashup of Imbalance and Taken last week, and it was so fun. Like the end of that song is just so fun to play live, and I continue to return to it even though I'm actually pretty far removed from this album. I would say I've probably experienced like maybe 2 chapters in my life since the chapter in my life that this album is about. So yeah, I just love that song. Number 2 is a song that to me is underrated, and it's always been one of my favorite songs, and that is going to be Stranded. I love Stranded so much. From a songwriter perspective, I love the story, the way that I was able to like just depict the story and the scenery and the big metaphor of being stranded on this island. I have a song off my first album called Hymn of the Outcast, and Hymn of the Outcast is about being on this desert island where you lose hope and all kinds of and you're trying, and like the chorus is like, this is where I found all the hope. So it was like starts depressing and then there's a little bit of hope resolved after feeling hopeless. And then with Stranded, it's like, no, just all depressed. And so I kind of like, it's a callback and a reference to a previous song on my first album, which is cool. It's cool from like a writing perspective to get to do that, develop like little lore for my art. And I love the bridge of Stranded. It's one of my favorite bridges I've ever written, and the way it came out in production with the backup vocals and just the intensity of it, and then how it gets to the more quiet parts of it after the intensity. And it's like I can just feel that song so closely. And there's like lyrics that I'm so proud of. There's some alliteration I did with some of the lyrics that I'm really proud of. So Stranded is, I love Stranded. Okay, on to number one. And this is not a song that I listen to all the time because it's a song that has a time and a place for me. But my number one is the last track on the album called Spirit. And the reason why this is my number one is from a songwriting perspective, this was the song that just poured out of me completely. I wrote it in like less than an hour, and the whole song was done in less than an hour. And I didn't sit down to write it. I literally was just, I had like this epiphany, got out my guitar, and then I have this song. And it's like, I just felt such relief and closure, some closure from what I was experiencing throughout this album. And I knew immediately when I wrote it that I was going to put it as the last track, because I always like the last track to feel like a concluding song to the album and theme as the best that I can. And so I have a very spiritual connection with this song, and I love the idea of feeling like even when I lose everything, there's still a part of me that survives throughout my entire life. Like, you can take everything away from me, but at the end of the day, that little boy is still here, and I'm still doing my thing. And it's just it's really encouraging to me. And still, when I hit dark moments, it's a song that on a personal level really stands out to me. So I know that on my own merit, and a song like songs, I use music sometimes for therapeutic reasons, and that song is one that really connects with me. And so out of just like thankfulness that I have this song for the rest of my life, I think this is the song I'm most thankful for having. And so that's why I feel like I had to put it at number one when I did my ranking last night.
Well, okay, I'm actually happy you went into detail on some of those, because you named some of my picks, not all of them, but you named some of them. I actually had 2 honorable mentions for your album, because I actually dealt with a few more than 5. And when I said earlier that I would get into how one song reminds me of like somebody else's voice singing it, and that's my first honorable mention, which is Devastation.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, I get vibes. You almost sound like Chester from Linkin Park in that song when they did the slower songs after the first 2 albums. Like when they came back like 5 years later and started doing music again, like some of the slower songs they do, you sound a lot like Chester. Like,
wow.
And I heard that and I was just like, why does this sound so familiar to me? And like I was kind of hearing like hints of it through our other songs, but like it didn't really fully hit me to that song. And I was like, holy fuck, he actually sounds like Chester on this song. R.I.P. But I mean, I'm like, you actually sound like Chester on this song. I'm like, shit. I'm like, damn. I kind of wonder what he would sound like now if he got like a freaking Asian guy to rap along with him. Like, like Jesus. Like, I want to hear that. That's a combo I want to hear. But my number 6 was my other album mentioned. My number 6 was Glass, because, like you said, it's the second album on the track, and it's relatable. It's relatable, and it's what really made me. Like I said, the first song on your album didn't really do it for me. The second song got me into it. I was like, okay, I can dig this now. What's going on here? Like, I'm gonna definitely be paying 100% more attention now than I was before because I heard this song. So I had to throw Glass on the list, and it got pushed down by other songs. But I mean, it was the first song on the list. So
that's a huge compliment to me that the song that hooked you on the album isn't even in your top 5, and you have 2 honorable mentions. So wow, I love that.
Well, my number 5, you mentioned it, but my number 5 is Stranded, because I fucking been there. I fucking been there. Women have done that shit. Women have done that shit to me, and I fucking feel that shit. So 100%. I know what Stranded's like. So fuck yeah, that I relate to that song so good. My number 4, though, weird reasoning why I picked it. My number 4 is 21.
Okay.
Because I feel like there's a story there, and I feel like it's a good story, and I kind of feel like I want to know what the fuck it's about. Because I couldn't pick the details of what it's about, but like the fact that you like say it's your darkest night, like I'm like, what the fuck happened? I'm like, did he get arrested for drinking? I'm like, what the fuck happened? Like, I want to know what happened. Like, tell me, like, there should be like an intro or something where you tell what happened, or an outro or something. Like, Jesus, or like put like a skip between it.
Oh, that's so. Oh, you're wanting me to? Do you want me to give some answers?
I mean, if you're willing and you can say, then yes. I mean, if you can't say, it's all that more intriguing. But either way,
okay. I have to think about this. I have never on recording talked about the story of my 21st birthday. And I kind of have this album. This album kind of masquerades. I hid the true meaning of a lot of this album on purpose, because it is very sensitive stuff that I was going through that a lot of people that probably follow me are not ready to hear, and I wasn't ready either when I came out with it to be so bold to talk about.
Like I said, it's up to you. I'm not gonna make you talk about anything you want to talk about. Like 100%. I'm just saying I was curious as shit. If you want to tell us, fucking awesome. If you don't, I respect it, and I will leave it at that.
Okay. So yes, my 21st birthday is what I would consider to be my darkest night. Every time I have a birthday now, I'm like, oh great, yay, my birthday. It's like actually on my most recent birthday, I wanted so badly to just like get out there and have the best birthday ever instead of just like dreading it. But so it has to do with what birthed this album. My 21st birthday is what started it all. It's what started this really dark chapter. It had me completely deconstruct like everything that I believed in and thought was reality, and who I was before I was 21 is not the same as who I was after I was 21. And I guess like to explain what happened on my 21st birthday is I was about to graduate from a very fundamentalist Christian college. And I had a drink of alcohol way off campus on my 21st birthday, and somehow they found out about it. And then I got suspended 2 days before graduation. And then I had to like redo a whole lot. I lost thousands of dollars. I lost a lot. And it made me like, I used to be like this really devout Christian, and it was like everything to me. And then this album was like, I completely deconstructed everything. So I guess that's like the short answer. That's very revealing. I've never revealed that information before. So yeah, I do not think fondly of my 21st birthday, and that's kind of the event that happened that kind of started this dark chapter.
Well, any of my fans or followers who knows me knows I have a pet peeve of a hatred against organized religion. So
Okay. Well,
100%.
sounds like I picked a good podcast to reveal it on then.
You did. Which honestly, you answered a question I was gonna have about my number one pick as well. So fuck yes, and I'm so happy I picked the album I did now. I really am, but because it just lines up even better. But my number 3 pick was Spirit because
What? Okay.
the drums at the end. Holy fuck, that drew me in. Like the drums at the end drew me in. And it was like an anthem. It was like an anthem, and I could fucking relate to it. So I was fucking down for it. Like pretty much most of your songs are softer than the music I ever listened to, whether it be rap or rock. And I'm not a country fan by any fucking means. Like no. So I mean, there are all your songs are softer tones than I usually am used to. But that's not gonna stop me from liking it because Chancy has introduced me to a lot of softer tone music over the last 90 episodes, and some of it I like, some of it I fucking hate with a chagrin that has never been known before. But some of it I like, and so softer music has grown to me. I mean, I mature as I get older, so I like to think of this. I like to think. Chancy may disagree, but my number 2 was because this touches on my fucking soul. Too much to live for. That was my number 2. The fucking Suicide song, because of how fucking dark it is. Like, fed my soul, fed my heart, like fed the darkest side of my mind, and I was like, oof. I'm like, this shit will turn you the fuck on. Yeah, like it's so dark and but also so uplifting at the same time. I like dark and uplifting. It's a weird combination, but I fucking love it. So, I dug it, dude. I fucking dug that track like nothing else. Like, the only reason my number 1 beat it even is because something I already mentioned, but my number 1 was legalism. Because I was gonna ask you, like, okay, are you religious or are you falling out of religion? Like, it was at points it was hard to tell which way it was going, but
that was on purpose.
I mean, I'm sure, but legalism, like, now that you said that, I know I was right when I assumed it was all about the lies of religion, and I was like, you won't get in unless you have no sin. Like, I fucking love that line. Like, I fucking love that line and the way you deliver it. Like, that song blew me the fuck away. Legalism is fucking incredible. Legalism and Too Much to Live For both got added to my Spotify like list. So.
Oh wow, I love that.
Like it was only 2 songs, but those 2 got added to my Spotify like list because I would listen to both of those over and over again and not get tired of them. So, I mean, Legalism is a freaking incredible song. I hate organized religion with a passion, with a fucking passion. Younger me wanted to burn churches down to the ground. So, I mean, I've matured now and don't want to do that anymore because they're just honest people trying to make a living. Well, they're not honest, but they're people trying to make a living. They're definitely not fucking honest. But, so, I mean, yeah. Legalism, just, so many good things spoken in that song. So many good things. I fucking loved it. Like, I almost thought, like, when I saw the title, I'm like, is he doing a weed song? Like, is it about legalizing weed? Like, I'm like, fuck yeah. I'm like, that's why Cottonmouth King and everybody else I listen to is fucking Alley. Let's do this shit. But then when I heard what it was about, I was like, oh, okay, this is even better. Fuck religion. Yeah, let's go. Let's get in the bandwagon with the pitchfork and the torch and say, fuck religion. Let's do it. But, yeah, so Legalism definitely is my number 1, and thank you, sir. This album was definitely a pleasure to listen to. But, I mean, like I said, rock or country, go away. I'm telling you, go one way and you'll fucking make it huge. But you gotta pick a path. You're in the middle of the road right now. But not in the way Chancy meant. But speaking of the devil himself, hey Chancy, what were your top 5, buddy?
Well, my number 5 was Too Much to Live For.
Was that low?
Number 4 was The Hard Way. Number 3 was Stranded. Number 2 was Spirit. And then number 1 for me was Legalism, but not for any of the reasons that any of y'all just mentioned. I was thinking of it in the context of like, okay, I got to have a good joke somewhere. And with Legalism, I figured it was voted most likely to be played on a loop in an interrogation room in Guantanamo Bay. So I was like, all right, that one goes to the top of the list.
You got him. But okay, I'm honestly, okay, wait, what's the one song?
The Hard Way.
The Hard Way. Yeah, that actually was a good track too. I didn't vibe with it as much as other ones, but I did like that one. I just want to say, like, that was close to making an honorable mention, but it's just like, you're being too selective. You're not being selective enough now, Jeremy. You gotta fucking step up your review game a little bit. And I was like, all right, I got it, boss Jeremy, I got it. I'll calm down. But both sides of personality coming out there in a heartbeat. But all right, well folks,
I wanted to say before we move on, I think it's very interesting that both of y'all have Too Much to Live For on your list, and then you also said that it's your second favorite and you saved it to your liked playlist and stuff. I've never had anybody really talk to me about that song. My friends and family, and I've never played it live, so it's one of those that are very much hidden in my discography. So I've never been in like a setting where I have ever talked about the song. And also my friends and family, they're like, oh yeah, it's pretty, and they won't say anything else about it because they're like, no. They're like, we don't want to talk about that or think about that.
That's the funny thing though. I was thinking when I was listening to it, I'm like, this would actually be a good theme for like when they do like those suicide awareness commercials and shit. Like that'd be a good theme song for it. Like, like people who are in a short stay in a mental hospital or some shit because they tried that shit. Like, or if anybody who calls a suicide hotline, you have to listen to that shit and hold. Like, it gives you, it kind of like tells you like, don't do it. You're worth more than you think you are.
Yeah.
Like it's a good message. It's a good message. I mean, it's dark, but darkness is needed sometimes to reach people like that. So I fucking think it's a good message.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I was not expecting that song to be on anybody's list, so that really is a big takeaway from me that both of y'all love that song.
Dark. We're both dark souls that have gone through a lot in life, so we've been places that not everybody has, so we can appreciate the darker things in life sometimes. and the uplifting things for that reason as well. But right, Chancellor?
Right.
Indubitably. But you haven't said that in a while, actually. That's surprising. But, well, I guess it's time to go on to my album, because I just want to save that one for last for other reasons. But, so, you see, you gave us your album. And like I even asked you, as you know, like what artists inspired you, because I wanted like ideas of like who to bring. And then you said like Taylor Swift. I'm like, oh fuck that. I'm like, I can't do that. I'm like, I love the Taylor Swift.
More than just Taylor Swift. I gave you a list.
You said Taylor Swift. You said The National, which I never heard of until I was just putting together a bracket the other week with that had a song by The National, and I'm like, oh, there's that band that Blake mentioned, and
I do like a lot of soft-spoken stuff. That's the type of music I like, and you said that that's not really what you listen to, so I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. We've had fans of Taylor Swift on this show. We've done Taylor Swift bracket on this show for somebody else's birthday a year and a half ago, but I mean. All songs picked by her too, by the birthday girl. So it wasn't even like a top actual ranking list or anything by any magazine or something. But Taylor Swift has songs I can like, but not songs I'm gonna love. I mean, I'm a Nightmare Dressed as a Daydream. Like that's the one song I love. But I can't think what the fuck it's actually called at this moment. But
you're like a nightmare wrapped up in a bad trip.
I know, right? But yeah, I forget what it's called. I can fucking hear the chorus, but I can't fucking think of what it's called. But I mean, so I'm starting to think what to bring, and I'm like, all right, what the fuck do I bring to this? And then you know what? I'm like, you know what? I am just gonna go with the album I've wanted to bring on this show for a long fucking time, but I haven't had the chance to. And I mean, Chancy at this point already mentioned something about like, I think this is a religious CD, and I'm like, oh, okay then. Well, I'm gonna fuck with this dude. And I mean, not like completely fuck him because I could have brought so much worse. But like, I'm gonna bring something that's the opposite of religion. And now that I found out that you're fucking falling out from religion, you're anti-religious in a way almost. It makes it even more beautiful. What I wanted to bring. So I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm bringing the CD that got me into this artist. The CD that is first new CD that I got into. I'm bringing Marilyn Manson's "Eat Me, Drink Me" album because it was his first big comeback after his initial 3 album run that got him world famous. Like after putting out greatest hits and then taking a few years off to do whatever Marilyn Manson does, he decided to start his next trilogy with this album. And I mean, yes, this trilogy is also looked at as one of his worst, but this first album I think is the standout of it because I think this first album was ingenious. It was my college anthem CD. Used to fucking blast it doing work in college, like in the dorms, like during the day. People get pissed at me because I wake them up and shit with this shit, but you know, it happens. And I mean, I love this album, and I think it's got so many good themes in it. And I mean, you know, the comparison between Jesus Christ and vampires is there and has been made before. So I fucking was like, you know what? This all kind of ties in some way or another, and I'm just gonna fucking run with it because I love this album. So yeah, I'll bring Eat Me, Drink Me, and the first Manson album. The reason that after his greatest hits, it was the reason I got into Manson. So fuck yeah, I was a late bloomer for him, but I'll fucking bring the album that made me love him. But what did you think of Marilyn Manson, Blake? I'm kind of dying to hear this, almost more than Chancy.
Well, I kind of figured that this one was your album since your title is Hell's Not Hot, But I Am on the podcast. And also you introduced Chancy as being like something about kung fu fighting, and I was like, yep, okay, I know whose albums are who now.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it away too fast.
It's like right off the bat, I'm like, I know whose album belongs to. And there were some musical things that I really liked about the album. I will say that, like I mentioned before, I typically do like softer type of musics, and
I know.
Every once in a while, like there actually, believe it or not, are some like people, like artists from this particular genre that I do listen to, but typically I have to be like in a certain mood for it. I have to either be really pissed or I have to be like in a car at night, like in a crazy mood. Like those are the two particular moments that, and both of those don't happen a whole lot for me. And so I really want to experience this album in one of those two settings. Me just listening to it, preparing for this podcast, I was not in that frame of mind, you know, for that. So I think that I will, it's one of those albums where I liked it the first time I listened to it, but if I were to listen to it in the right state later, I'll be able to jam with it a lot more.
I mean, you're not kidding. Listen to this album when you're in a fucking heartbreak like mode, and like it is fucking orgasmic in a way, like because it's all about him breaking up with Dita Von Teese. Like that inspired this album. Is their relationship ending? There's some references to Rachel Evan Woods in it as well, one of his older relationships from the '90s, and I mean, it's just a lot of it's about like heartbreak and fucking. I mean, that's actually why I thought tied your album a little bit well because there's a lot in there about, there's a little bit in your album about like not being able to trust people and like love lost and shit like that. So I kind of feel like the themes kind of tied in slightly enough for me to say, okay, I made a connection. There you go. but Sir Chance a lot because I know you don't hate Marilyn Manson, so I kind of want to know what you think of this album.
Of all the fucking Manson albums you could pick to bring to this goddamn show, you picked the one fucking album that actually has this. Shut up. It has the one song on this fucking album that literally made me give up all hope for him as a musician. So like I was a fan of Manson's like from jump, right? And I knew he had taken a break and he released the greatest hits, and I saw on MTV they used to do a thing called like making the video or behind the video or whatever the fuck the name of that shit show was. And what it would do is they would like do a behind the scenes like documentary vignette on a upcoming album or the song in particular. And then at the very end they show the actual music video. And the video in question is fucking heart-shaped glasses. I saw the video for that fucking song and I was like, all right, Marilyn Manson's fucking dead to me. Get the fuck out of my face, you fucking grifting fucking trash heap. And it took a while for me to get back on the wagon with him because like it was just like you'd said, that next series of 3, there was not some good stuff. It was just.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The High and the Low is his worst fucking album ever.
It's tough. It's a neck and neck race between those two. This one and that one, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, it really was disheartening. For the first thing of Manson coming back, you're stoked. I think I was in high school. Well, I don't think I was in high school. It might have been. I don't remember when this.
I was in college when this came out in 2007. You were not in high school.
Oh, 7. Yeah, no, I wasn't in high school. I was watching it on TV. But still, I'm barely 23 at the time, so like I'm stoked about Manson coming back. And then I see that video, and it's the first exposure to that next upcoming album. I didn't even bother. Like you bringing this to the show was the first time I listened to this album in its entirety. And I was just like, okay, I guess I'm glad I listened to it, but I didn't miss anything for the past, fucking like 16 years since they came out. But I still got 5 out of it.
I mean, plus one of these songs was in our Halloween songs bracket a couple years ago, so I mean,
yeah, I know
one of these songs for, but I mean, and honestly, that I know the video you're talking about. I actually kind of enjoyed it, and the music kind of fucking overwhelmed the video being like not that well put together. But I mean, I don't know. It was kind of a new Marilyn Manson, same industrial, same grungy sound that he always had, but just new, like different, a little bit different.
I understand your opinion to the best of my ability, but I don't see what you're talking about. Without Twiggy, there was no chunk. There was no low end. Like it was not anything like the previous 3 before it. Well, it was such a dramatic departure that was what was so off-putting for me.
Well, dude, if you make your fucking musicians do circle jerks with you before you go on stage, then obviously some of them are going to eventually be like, I'm out of here. Fuck this shit. Like, it's Marilyn fucking Manson. I mean, not everybody's going to stay with them. I mean, I haven't heard Twiggy do shit since then, so apparently he just went.
He joined back up with Manson.
I think he left again, but I'm not positive on that. Because Marilyn Manson has gone through a lot of fucking. I don't know if there's any musician in his band that's the same as it was when he first started. I think they all left eventually to do their own thing or to fucking get up with somebody else, like whatever. But I mean, I know Ginger left at the same time Twiggy did, so
yeah. But I don't think Ginger ever came back.
I don't think so. But I mean, he was an OG. But and I mean, you can't even compare Manson's 3 first albums to this. I don't think because you can't compare masterpieces to later in careers. That's like our guest the last episode who likes the original Beatles, and then like they come back from India and they're completely different. Like I think he just like it's the same thing. Like you can't compare the masterpieces at the time to new stuff they're trying. And I don't think he actually delved that far from his original music style. I really don't think he did. I think it's very similar in style. I could hear Mechanical Animals in this. I could hear uh, Golden Age of Grotesque in this. I can hear a lot of elements from other albums he did in the first three in this. So the only one that's really not shown in this is Antichrist Superstar, but you don't bring that anywhere else. Antichrist Superstar is its own fucking masterpiece. You don't touch that. It's meant to be an album and it's meant to die there. Like he kind of brought it back in some of his newer stuff with like on the Born Villain album and the last two albums that dropped from him. Like he kind of brought it back somewhat from Antichrist Superstar, but not fully. He never has gone back to that level again. But I mean, he can't nowadays, or he'd be canceled in 5 seconds. But anyway, I had 5 honorable mentions for this album because this album is fucking incredible. I didn't do it. I didn't pull Jeremy. I didn't pull Jeremy to bring the whole album.
Close enough. You're close. It was close enough.
My first honorable mention is just a car crash away because of the guitar solo in the last minute is one of the best guitar solos ever. Like it fucking is just so fucking amazing. And the whole song is pretty damn good. But number 9 is Are You the Rabbit for the Alice in Wonderland fucking callbacks. Like I love anything that has to do with Alice in Wonderland because it's just one of the trippiest stories ever written. So anything that relates to that, I fucking love always. Number 8 is the title track, Eat Me, Drink Me. Because it's supposed to be a song about like being the opposite of Jesus. Because if Jesus tells his followers to eat his body, drink his blood, but a vampire does the opposite, he eats and drinks off other people. So like that's why he did that song, like because he always saw himself as like actually I guess he did tie into the Antichrist thing because he sees himself as the Antichrist, the anti-Jesus. So I guess he kind of does tie it back in here. I didn't even think of that even, but he kind of does. My number 7 was They Said That Hell's Not Hot because I love the fucking lyric of I gave my soul to someone else. She must have realized it was already sold. Like that's I love his lyrics. His lyrics are always going to be good. And They Said That Hell's Not Hot is a fucking catchy ass song. And my number 6, which it killed me not to have this in top 5. Fucking killed me. But my number 6 was If I Was Your Vampire. Because just the fact that it opens the fucking album and it has like that industrial grinding sound like at the beginning of the track, like you just know right away it's Manson. He's back. It's fucking Manson. He's back. Like it's just dark. It's industrial. It's him. But and I mean, who doesn't love vampires? For fuck's sake. But my number 5 was Heart-Shaped Glasses because I like the theme behind it. And the disco-y beat to it is kind of catchy too. The whole damn, like that's just catchy as shit. Like it's almost he was doing this shit before them, so I'm not even gonna say it, but it was kind of Lordy-esque in a way, and Chancy knows what I'm talking about. But it was kind of like that disco metal feeling. So I mean, I liked Heart-Shaped Glasses, and I like the chorus. Don't break my heart, and I won't break your heart-shaped glasses. Like, don't break the fact that I'm actually in love with you, and I won't break the fact that you think you're in love with me. Like, that's genius. That's fucking so genius the way he puts it. But my number 4 is Putting Holes in Happiness, because who hasn't felt that way? Like, their happiness was being shot apart by a fucking gun. Like, who hasn't felt that way? Like, I fucking love that song. Number 3 was Evidence, because it's dark, it's twisted, it's Manson. I mean, fuck me till we know it's unsafe, and we'll paint over the evidence. Like, that's... I mean, it kind of reminded me of that fucking Private Eye song from fucking Dog Fashion Disco. Like, what's your fetish? Oh, I want to fuck you till it looks like you're dead. Like, come on. Like, that's fucking dark as shit, and it reminds me of this song a lot. And plus, it's catchy. It's Marilyn Manson. It's always a catchy song. My number 2 was You, Me, and the Devil Makes Three, because I fucking love like the rhythm. I love the rhythm in that. I love his vocals in that. Like it's just classic Marilyn Manson to me. Like so many callbacks to freaking Golden Age of Grotesque in that song. And my number one, because I hate people who copy off other artists to some degree. And so my number one is Mutilation is the most sincere form of flattery, which was originally supposed to be called Rebels Without Applause, but they changed the name at the last minute. And I love that song because originally there was this whole news thing going around where everybody thought he was attacking My Chemical Romance for like trying to imitate him in some way. I mean, he denied it eventually later in the news, saying that it was just aimed at people in general that try to imitate him because there's a lot of bands like that in the 2000s that tried to like be like him but could never match up. And he even said in the interview later on, like, I'm embarrassed to be me because these people are doing a really sad, pitiful, shallow version of what I've done, which is true. Like, all these emo ass bands try to act like they're the devil, the Antichrist, whatever, like trying to act like they're something they're not. Like they're trying to act like him and they're just not. So I mean, I love that song, and it's catchy. I mean, Mutilation is the most sincere form of flattery. Like it kind of is in a way. It kind of is. So if you're actually hurting yourself to become like somebody else, that's pure flattery at its greatest. But so those are my top 10, I guess. But Blake, I'm kind of dying to hear what were your top 5 off of Manson.
Yeah, I feel like if I had like I mentioned, if I was able to have a moment in that right headspace, that this list would change. So I am going to give a disclaimer. I had 4 songs that were very easily gonna make my list, and then I couldn't pick a 5th. I was like, I don't really know what to choose as the 5th song because there wasn't really one. And that's usually how it works when making like a top 5 or top 10 list or whatever. Usually that last song is always the hardest one to choose, at least for me, because it's the last one to choose. Everything else isn't going to get chosen. But at number 5, I went ahead and just went for Heart-Shaped Glasses. It definitely wasn't something that I'll probably return to. I mean, this isn't the type of music that I typically listen to anyway, but I just picked it because I was like, well, it's the most popular one, so maybe I should pick that one as my number 5. But the other 4...
At the time, it was popular because it's when that disco sound, like, you know, all these fucking emo bands were doing the same thing. Like that disco sounding, like dark music was like becoming a trend at the time. So, and the video, of course, publicized the shit out of it. So,
yeah, I saw that there was some type of controversy with that video, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to get into this.
It's Marilyn Manson. I mean, we'll never be able to cover up what we do with that dress. I mean, that right there is a whole fucking controversy of a lyric. But like Jesus, and there's no Jesus in this place. So,
okay, well, let me move on because my top 4 are songs that stood out to me more than the others. And so, okay, hang on, I wrote notes. Let me go back. So my number 4, I picked "You and Me" and "The Devil Makes 3." And let me see. I said that it has a good chorus, and my favorite lyric is, "There's not a word for what I want to do to you." That's interesting to me.
I love that feeling.
It has a very, to me, it had a very sexy vibe, and it was a good sexy vibe. It wasn't like, because a lot of songs talk about sex, let's be honest here, like a lot of them do, and it's a topic that gets kind of old to me. Like there's songs about sex that's like, I don't really feel what you're serving. Like you're just talking about sex. There's nothing special about it. But in this song, like I really felt like the sensual vibes in it. Like I believed the song. Like if you know what I mean.
Oh god, yeah.
So I appreciated that because I actually do love like songs that have sexy vibes that I actually can get with, and not us just like the songs that just mention sex to mention sex. But and then I said I put in question mark, who is the devil? And then I said, there's also a line that says pants can always come off. And that was interesting. And then the background, there's like a, there's like a background sound. It's like a ha 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 thing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it's him doing background vocals. It's it. Like he
Yeah.
does like those creepy background vocals of him like heavy breathing and him like doing his like Joker laugh almost in a way.
Yeah, so those were the notes I had for that song. So that got it to number 4 for me. Number 3 is They Said Hell's Not Hot. And I love the energy, and it has a great intro. And it compares the first time that because I found this album to be overwhelming. So I really do like I could completely be off the mark with what some of this stuff is about because I was confused a lot.
You're not wrong so far. So,
and so what I said, it compares Love Life to Hell and says hell is not worse because it's not hot.
Well, I mean, it's some artists have said it snows in hell, so that who knows?
Yeah, but I said it's. Sorry, go ahead.
You're right. No, you're right. You're right. I mean, and I mean, in my understanding of that song is he's talking about like a bad relationship because like you're in hell, it's a bad relationship, but who's saying it's not hot? It can still be hot at the same time. I mean, angry sex is one of the best forms of sex. So.
Oh, okay. I get you. Okay, that's what I was missing. That makes it better. Okay, I said it has a great chorus and the electric guitar. I love the electric guitar. I'm a sucker for the electric guitar.
You're right. You're right. The intro, the guitar intro to that song is fucking like astoundingly good.
Mm-hmm. And then for number 2, I put If I Was Your Vampire. Mm-hmm. And I said it's very aesthetically pleasing, and that's something I really appreciate. I really appreciate a really good aesthetic. Like it really was giving vampire to me, and I just love that. And as a songwriter myself, like I really try my best to pay attention to aesthetics in my songwriting. And so when I see other artists do that, I actually don't see it too often. I don't see it often enough. People paying attention to aesthetics in songs, and I really appreciate the aesthetics. That's why I have it this high up. And I said the chorus comes in really strong to me. The bridge was nice. Blood-stained sheets in the shape of your heart. That was sexy, and it was creative. The outro was unexpected to me, and it really made like the song even more wild and sexy. And that's something I really love about like a good outro. I love those outros where like you don't expect them to come. I mean, sometimes you can look and say, oh, there's still 30 seconds left in the song, and so like you can see that there's still song left, but in some cases, but like sometimes an outro really makes the song. And I just felt like the outro was very appropriate for the song, and it made the song stronger to me, and it really like delivered the whole thing pretty well. So that was a very well-rounded song, and I really love the aesthetic. Like you said, who doesn't love vampires? I do think it's mysterious and fun. My number 1 is Putting Holes in Happiness. So I said, I love the illusions. I really love the illusions. As a writer, I also am a sucker for a good illusion. And for people who may not be aware of what an illusion is when you mention a famous character or film or piece of literature or whatever it is. You mention it, and then you kind of like have your own spin on it. And I loved all the illusions in the song. It was so nice and creative. I love the lyric, should have picked the photograph that lasted longer than you, period. Mm-hmm. Also another great electric guitar solo once again. And I also wrote down, can you please explain the lyric, take the child out back and shoot it? What does that mean?
I mean, I think he was referring to like the relationship, because the child is the relationship that became of them. I mean, I don't think he literally means like take the damn kid out back and like fuck them kids, shoot it. Like, I don't think he means that shit. Like, I think he
Yeah.
actually means like, I think he means like the child we birth is this relationship. And I mean, cause I mean, he says it. He's like, the whole thing's about relationship breaking down because I kill myself in small amounts, which every bad relationship, that's how it starts, is you start killing off yourself in like little pieces to like make the other person happy, and eventually it's going to kill you completely. And I mean, the line of, if we could paint it black if we need a color, like I mean, that's kind of an homage to Rolling Stones, I think, but it's also just like, this is dark. If we need a color for this, if you really want to put a color on this, we'll paint it black, because it's this relationship's dead. It's dead. So I mean, this whole album is about relationships. That's basically what it's about. Because it was about his most recent relationship, which is the reason he didn't put out music for a while, is because he was busy with that. And then, like, once that was over, it just gave him inspiration again. And I mean, it's about older relationships too, but lesser, because they were just popularity relationships. Because he was he was in the main light at that time. He was in this like streamline of popular culture in the late '90s, because of the whole Columbine, like him getting blamed for it thing. Like, it was like a thing, like, oh, this celebrity female wants to date me because I am infamous, not even famous. I'm infamous because my name got tied in with something horrible. Which he gave, he gave a great speech in like the '97, like in response to Columbine, him getting blamed for it. He gave a great speech. I actually did it in my public speaking class in college. It was my famous person speech I did, and like, it was awesome because I got to do a Marilyn Manson speech, and I got to curse, and I got to call people idiots and sheeps and everything. So it was fun. And the looks on people's faces when I brought up the picture of him in his alien suit from Mechanical Animals is fucking priceless. Some of these kids that never even heard of Marilyn Manson saw that picture pop up and like, what the fuck is that? But it was just, I mean, he's a rebel. He's always been a rebel. He always has been anti-society, and this CD fully fucking climaxes that completely. Like, I mean, I love what you said about If I Was Your Vampire too. I loved your fucking review of that because it was just perfect. It describes exactly what that song's meant to do. So he is a highly sexual creature, Marilyn Manson, and it's almost funny. It's almost funny because when he was on Californication, like David Duchovny's daughter in the show wanted to hang out with him because she was like a huge fan of him, and like David Duchovny was like, I don't know. I'm like, he's like, it's Marilyn Manson, and then like he brings her to Marilyn Manson's house, and Marilyn Manson's just like, oh, let's talk about the boys you have crushes on in school. Like, he becomes like this fucking schoolgirl almost in the way he acts, and it's just the funniest thing to see like this dark goth character become like a fucking start acting like a schoolgirl, start acting like a normal human being, like on a TV show. Like, he literally is one of the best people I've ever seen in fucking anything, pop culture, media, take your pick. Like, he's one of the most interesting, best people I've ever seen. Very few can relate to his greatness, in my opinion. He should go down the record books. He should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in the next 10 years, in my opinion. He changed rock forever. The industrial grungy sound he put out in the early '90s started a movement. People don't talk about it, but he did. That's the reason he got signed to labels.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say that's the reason he got signed to a label so fast. Yeah. It's because it says in his book, like, his manager went to a club, or not his manager, his producer ended up going into a club and seeing all these teenagers that look like him in Florida, like grooving, dancing to his music, and he was like, okay, there's something here. I don't get it. I don't know what the fuck it is, but there's something here. I need to take this man and make him fucking put out more shit. And that was when Marilyn Manson and Spooky Kids became Marilyn Manson, because he was the show. So, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was just gonna say, I'm dying to hear good old Chancy's take on everything you just said.
Oh, yeah. Well, Chancy, what are your top five? And I'm kind of I can see his face have no emotion. That's the scariest thing in the fucking world.
You know, just when I think that we've reached the end of the line for you saying incredulously fucking stupid shit, you fucking pull this one straight out of the bottom of the goodie bag. Fucking, I'm not saying that Manson wasn't
Prolific.
in the opener. Yes, prolific is definitely a proper term for the first trio. However, specifically so, I have to say that his rendition of Sweet Dreams is definitely what set him apart
It made him huge.
and garnered him the attention that he needed to go that extra step. But I mean, I wouldn't go as far as Jeremy put on it. But for my number 5, I have the Red Carpet Grave. I thought that was pretty interesting. I like that. That was a good one. Number 4 was Eat Me, Drink Me. Number 3 is They Said Hell's Not Hot. Number 2 is You and Me and the Devil Makes Three. And number 1 is Putting Holes in Happiness. I for the most part, the album in and of itself is extremely hit and miss for me outside of my displeasure in Heart-Shaped Glasses and what it did to me in real time watching that horrible show. Like I said, I'll have to go back and revisit some of the later stuff that came out after this one, but it really signified for me the falling off point. And I don't remember exactly when it was when he hopped back on the awesome wagon to really start, doing better than
Born Villain, his 2012 album. That's when he really started getting back to himself, like back to his
original. Because I mean, it really seems like he's just like phoning it in for the most part. But
I don't feel that. There's a lot of emotion in this album that he's putting forth. I mean, I don't think he's just phoning it in. Like, it's a lot of stuff he was really feeling at the time.
No, and what I mean by phoning it in is like not pushing the envelope musically.
Well, because he became the Antichrist superstar. He need to go further than that. Like, there's nowhere else you can go besides that if you want to become the most hated. Like, him and Insane Clown Posse were the most hated musicians in America in like fucking late 90s, early 2000s. Like, come on. Like, there's not much further you can go than that.
Well, I mean, we can agree to disagree on that, but he could have easily, when Twiggy left, he could have easily found a studio player that had the similar style and sound and kept at it and still deviated from the norm enough to make it to where it's not just the same thing being churned out like a cookie cutter, album release.
I don't think it is. I mean, he's
no, I'm saying that's what he could have done. I'm not saying that that's what happened.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't.
Because you said there's nothing he could have done after Antichrist and all that stuff, but that's not true. Because I mean, he still encapsulated a lot of that angsty animosity in things like Dope Show, and that one, instead of it being like, if we're gonna compare like Beautiful People to Dope Show, Beautiful People is an extremely guitar centric song. And Dope Show is an extremely bass-centric song.
Yeah.
Both of which are exceptionally awesome and come together very well. But it's just I don't think he should have jumped on the wagon for the disco rock. And that's just how I'll always feel about this section in his discography.
I mean, that was only for this album. After this album, his next album had a Western sound on one of the songs. He went different. He was trying out different things, trying to find his place in music at that point, I think.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because it was a different time era. It was a different time period. It wasn't the end of the millennium. It was now the beginning of a new fucking century, and what the fuck is he gonna be? Like, who is he gonna be? And he found it. I mean, in one of his newer albums, they even got a quote from his dad, and his dad straight up said, like, "Oh, it'll make you wet." Like, I mean, his dad's. If you read his biography, his dad's a fucked person. But I fucking love his biography, The Long Hard Road to Hell. Like, it's an amazing book. Like, I read it in high school and I fucking loved it. I actually want to reread it one of these days because it was just so fucking good. He even tells a story how he lost his virginity in it. So, it's kind of. And he dispels all the rumors about him, like the fucking removing his rib rumor and shit. So.
Well, I mean, there's been so many different artists over the course of history that have been accused of removing the rib to do some salacious, ignorant stuff. Manson's definitely not the first on that one. I mean, we're talking like Alice Cooper was alleged to have done it. I mean, it literally, there's a lot of, like, basically anybody who was controversial and shocking from the 70s into the 90s, they were like, oh, I heard that he did this. It's like, Jesus, guys, how many? It's like, do they have a small club where there's like a yoga? Is it like a hot yoga class? They get together and,
I mean,
do the thing.
It's some salacious fellatio, but I mean, come on now.
So it's also known as salatio.
I love that. But actually, I might have put that in the title this week. I just might have to. But I guess it's finally time for Chancy to tell us what album he wanted to bring forth this week, and my God, why?
Well, you know my routine. I get the list. You tell me what you're going to bring. And then I go to the old trusty like list, and then I hit shuffle. And it just so happened that one of the songs that played was this particular band. And it's the debut album of Power Man 5000. Which, I mean, in all reality, Zombie, Manson, and PM5K were kind of the exception to the rule for rock in that 90s time frame between Rob Zombie's solo album, Manson's exposure, this album, which is Mega Kung Fu Radio. It really is one of those things where even if I don't care much for the rest of the album, there's at least 3 songs that specifically stand out. Some for nostalgia reasons, because I was introduced to this specific album by a friend of mine who always used to play it at parties. And it was one of those things where it was always when everybody was super duper wasted, and it would start up and it lulls you into a false sense of security, and then it slaps in and then just fucking turns into a mosh pit. And it happened on a couple of occasions. I may or may not have been the start of the mosh pit, but it doesn't matter. But
you were.
I was. But no, it's one of those things. Like, I think it's a really good combination of simplistic yet effective instrumentation and an interesting use of lyricism. Yeah, I really do think that for all of its shortcomings as a debut album, it was an independent release, and they were able to make enough sales on their own to garnish a re-release under their record label. So, I mean, not everybody can say they fucking did that. So, I picked it.
And you pronounce the town name wrong. It's Mega Kung Fu Radio.
Well, if you're going to go that route, it's Mega Kung Fu Radio.
What the fuck is my wife watching? I'm hearing sex sounds. But why
y'all making macaroni?
Oh, that was this morning. But did the new episode of Bridgerton come out? Like, what the fuck? But Blake, what did you think of Power Man 5000?
Yeah, it took me a while to get into this one. I definitely don't listen to music of this genre. There's a lot of what I perceive to be screaming that is being done on this album. And I'm not saying it's wrong. You know, it's a stylistic choice, but it's not a stylistic choice that I gravitate towards personally from an artistic standpoint. I will say that there are some songs on the album where I thought the stylistic choice of screaming was done in an effective way. So that was good. Yeah, I mean, I got a top 5.
Hey, I mean, that's better than some in the past. There's been some people that have been like, this thing's such trash, I couldn't even get 5 out of it. So
yeah,
No.
I got a top 5 and I have notes. So so yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at with it.
hey, that's all right, you know.
Well, honestly, Sir Chance a lot. I got some mixed feelings on this one. I mean, I've heard the name Power Man 5000 before, and then I looked him up to figure out why I knew it, and I was like, oh, the Dudley Boys theme song. That's why I know that name. Bring the tables. Like, that's why I know that fucking shit.
Makes sense.
Or Get the Tables, whatever the fuck it's called. But I mean, and then I saw that they were in like a lot of SmackDown vs. Raw games back in the day and shit like that. Like one wrestling game had like 3 of their songs on. So I'm like, okay, that's why I know their name. And like, this album, I actually kind of liked it because it's rap and rock together. It kind of reminds me of our early Linkin Park in some ways. Like they came before, obviously, so they were like an early Linkin Park, kind of Beastie Boy-ish in a way, like Legacy of the Beastie, like they're paid tribute to the Beastie Boys in some ways too. And I mean, almost they remind me of like a more like I want to say more street, but I think that's the wrong phrase. But like a more street ICP, like in a way, because the way they combine like rock and rap and beatboxing and all that shit, like it kind of remind me of that. But like I heard a lot of different bands I like in this, so I actually liked it to some degree. I mean, I got fucking 4 honorable mentions, so I definitely liked it. I'm not gonna say something I'll go back to. I don't think I'll actually put any of this. Actually, no, that's a lie. That's a fucking flat lie, because I did put some of these songs into my fucking like list, because I know I did. What I put? 1, 2, 3, yeah, 3 songs from this into my like list. So, and I would put a 4th, but it was too fucking long. But besides, I mean, so exactly.
So
but
is it common for you to have these honorable mentions? Like, do you have honorable mentions for almost every album that's
not if I don't like something. If I don't like something, then you'll see me pick the straight top 5. If I actually dig something, then I'm gonna like more than 5 tracks, and I'm not gonna leave those ones I don't like out. I mean, I'll leave the tracks I don't give a fuck about. But if I feel like if a track does anything for me, I'm gonna fucking put it on the list. Like my lists are never. I mean, there have been fucking strip episodes where every album, including my own, only had 5 songs because it's just they weren't like they're not amazing CDs. Like we've done a lot of 70s like 60s episodes where like we do like a year thing because it's just we don't know any albums from that time that really would click with us. So I mean, I always pick artists that we know and like. So I mean, like that's when it happens. But like when Chancy brings new shit on the show that I never heard before that I really actually like trying to get into, it's always a big list. But so I mean, and Power Man 5000 is actually impressive. I knew who they were kind of, but like I am now impressed, and I read in their Spotify profile that after this album they kind of went more of the metal direction and less of like the rap/rock direction, which kind of disappoints me because like if they kept going with this, they could have been Linkin Park before Linkin Park was a thing. So
I disagree.
Well, I mean, okay, you can't beat Chester and fucking Mike together. You can't. You fucking can't. But they're an amazing combination. But
I do see your point. I see the point you're trying to make, though.
They were combining different genres of music before other bands were.
Right.
Like, that's the thing. And then they just said, like, no, we're just going to go be a rock band like everybody else. Like, it's just like, what the fuck? Like, I kind of want to hear what they did after this just to kind of hear it. But I'll check it out in my own free time.
I mean, the follow-up album to this, Tonight the Stars Revolt, actually kind of, it's a little bit kind of like, it's almost like that crux point where you can see them kind of shifting more towards the rock element, but still kind of having some of those pieces that hadn't blown off in the atmosphere yet.
Exactly. Well, I'll have to check it out and see. But, well, Chancy, what were your top 5 for your album?
I actually had 3 honorable mentions on this one because I couldn't relegate just simply 5. Otherwise, I'd have had 3 5s. But so like number 8 for me was Standing 8 because I thought it was an interesting musical description of what being knocked out on your feet is like. Number 7 was Bored With Ya, which, I mean, just the subject nature of the song and how that's presented. A lot of it is presentation for this album for me personally. Number 6 was Tokyo Vigilante number 1. Number 5 was Public Menace, Freak Human Fly. Number 4 was Car Crash. Number 3 was Mega Kung Fu Radio. Number 2 was Even Superman Shot Himself. And number 1 for me on this was 20 Miles to Texas. That one is actually, I like the fact that it starts off with that country, twangy guitar riff, lulls you into this weird, like, false sense of security, like this is going to be this different type of song, and then all of a sudden it just slaps you in the head with that low end. And then it gets to the chunky part. It's that's the one that has the nostalgia factor for me, is just, be dead, half passed out at a party, and all of a sudden you hear that little weep, weep, and you're just like, ah. But yeah, well, that's pretty much that. Yeah.
We all know Chancy loves some chunky deep fried. But
yep.
Blake, what were your top 5 for this one? Kind of down to hear this.
So at number 5, I have Organized. Organized? How do you say it?
Yeah. It's set all fucked up. Organized, I think, is close to what it's supposed to be. Organized or some shit like that.
Organized. Yeah, that song. That's what I have at number 5. I love the hook. I love how it cuts out halfway through the song. Like how it kind of cuts out there. And my favorite lyric is the forces of evil run deep. I mean, the statement. This song is I wrote, it's a train wreck in a good way. And wait, what is this? What did I put here?
That's pulling a Chancy right there in front of his notes.
I looked it up and it said something about a reference to a poster in the 70s.
Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff because the lead singer, Spider, him and Rob Zombie kind of grew up on them old creature feature shows.
Okay. And then my number 4 is A Swim with the Sharks.
That was a good song.
I said that it has a good hook. I said it has a great hook. And I love I think it's a guitar riff, the guitar riff in the beginning. What's that sound in the beginning? The very beginning. Is it a guitar?
I believe it is.
I think it's a guitar, but it has a very interesting sound to it. And I really love, I thought it was a great hook. The song seems like a big riddle to me. Like I was trying to figure it out. And my favorite lyric is the hot house now seems like sucking on some ice cream. Funny thing is it'll make a grown man scream. And I was like, that sounds interesting to me.
I mean, if it'll make a grown man scream, it has to either have the word clamp or strap on it. So,
Yeah. Well, I was like, you get the head, the tail, the whole damn thing. I'm like, what does that mean? It's still a riddle that I'm trying to, like, is this song talking about sex? Or is it talking about, or is it, because it's also talking about a head somewhere. So I'm like, is this song about sex? Or is it about...
It's kind of a double.
The same thing in one. These two could be the same thing in one. I mean,
it's kind of a double entendre because You could go literal, the head, the tail, the whole damn thing. That's actually a line directly from Jaws, where the fisherman says, "For this much, I'll get you the head, the tail, the whole damn thing."
Oh, okay. It's
But
been a while since I've seen Jaws. I knew what it was, of course, but I was thinking Jaws. That Jaws is definitely where my mind went with the song. So that actually,
Right?
that's what I was missing. I was missing the reference to Jaws, and there it is. It's all over the song. So I guess good on them. That's good. And then my number 3 is Standing 8. And I said that I thought the lyrics were very creative with when they were counting up to 7 and then they get to 8. I thought that the way it was written was very creative. And I did some research because I'm actually not a boxing fan, and I saw something about Standing 8 as a boxing reference. Is that correct?
yep. So like, after somebody gets knocked down, when they go to count to 10 to count somebody out, if you stand up before they get to 8, they'll continue to count to 8, and then give you a chance to kind of collect your faculties and test your ability to, like balance and cognizance, and then they restart the fight.
Basically function, yeah.
Okay. That's what I was guessing, that it was something like that. So I was following well. And I said I like the way the style of the singing builds up into the screaming in the chorus. And it was a nice build. I like that there was, instead of just screaming through the whole song, I appreciated that some of the song was like a speak singing. I would consider it to be more of a speak singing. And then you get to the screaming in the chorus when it's really intense. And I thought that was a moment where that stylistic choice was used very appropriately and nicely, and it adds to it. And then I said, great rhymes in the verses with the numbers. My favorite lyric is, was that the right? Was that the left? Was it the jab? Or was it this hook? And I said, that's pretty creative. I do love that. And then my number 2 is 20 miles to Texas, 25 to hell. Fun fact, I am from Texas and I live here now. I did go to college out of state for a few years, but I am a Texas native. So, of course, right off the bat, a Texas reference is going to at least grab my attention at the beginning, just the fact that it's here. And I did love the intro. By the time I got to this song, because when I listen to albums, I like to go in order, because I do work hard as an artist to organize a track list, and my track lists do have purpose. It's not just randomly put together. And so whenever I listen to an album, I do like to go in order, because usually there's a reason why tracks are in a certain order. So I know a lot of people that just go random, and I'm like, yeah, it couldn't be me. I believe that it was meant to be experienced in this order, at least the first time I listened to it. But that's just a me thing. So by the time I got to the song, I knew what kind of album it was, and I was like, I know that there's about to be a drop.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a country album. So I knew right off the bat, first 3 seconds, that it was going to happen. The intro lasted longer than I thought it would. So that's cool. But I did love the intro. I was like, okay, I'm here in Texas. Oh yeah. And then, oh wow. I said all of my notes without reading them. Go me. My favorite lyric is, I was born to be misunderstood. And I said, what a mood. Me too. And then my number 1 was Earth versus Me. And
yeah, that's valid. That's a good one.
I said that the song has a good groove. It feels like an angry man mad at the world, and to TBH, that is a big mood. I've been there too. And my favorite lyric is sticking to kicking the facts from the songs of alienation. So nice. I like that lyric. I related. And it has a good delivery, and it sounds like one of those songs where if I were to learn it and get it memorized, I'd have a lot of fun screaming it. Those are my notes.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, I got a couple I don't want to mention, so that's awesome. But like I said, I had 4 honorable mentions for this album because I was actually impressed with it. My first honorable mention was 20 Miles to Texas, 25 to Hell, because it was a fun song. Not something I love, but it was a fun song. My number 8 was the opening track, which I fucking loved, but just got pushed down. And that was Public Menace, Freak, Human Fly, because it was a fun fucking track. And plus, if I'm not mistaken, there were samples in there from the Fly movie.
Yeah.
Okay, thought so. My number 7 on my next honorable mention was Car Crash, because it's a good headbanging filler song. Like it's not
Yeah.
really like a song. It's not like a song. It's almost like a fucking skit, but it's just like a good headbanging song. It's like, all right, well, we're gonna take a break. We're gonna take a break from singing for a minute. So you guys just fucking rock after this and just bang along. Like it.
Can I say something about Car Crash while we're on the subject? I'll be real quick.
Of course.
So when I was listening to Car Crash, I was driving in my car at night and I got scared. That's why that song didn't make it in my top 5, because I found it unsettling. I was afraid for my life when I was listening to that song driving at night, and I actually had to stop listening to the album because I was going to listen to it like on a night drive. I was going to work, and I was like, yeah, I'm not listening to this right now because that song scared me.
All right. That makes sense. It makes sense, honestly. But my number 6, my last honorable mention was Standing 8, because it was a good song, but and my number 5 was Mega Kung Fu Radio, because I like songs that are kind of like gimmicks, and that was kind of like a gimmick, so I kind of enjoyed it. My number 4 was Neckbone, because I love the funky bass intro. Like it was a really funky, like soul music 70s intro, which I dug.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 was Tokyo Vigilante number 1, because it was kind of like a superhero song, and I dig anything superheroes. So, like, I dug the fuck out of that song, and it was pretty cool. Number 2 was Earth vs. Me, because, I felt that way 1,000 times in my life, and when you feel like the whole world's against you, like, that song kind of sums it up perfectly. So, I fucking dug the shit out of that song. And my number 1, I mean, I love the title, that's part of the reason, but my number 1 is Even Superman Shot Himself. It's too long. I understand they're trying to do like we're going to cut off at the end here, and then there's like a little bonus thing at the end of us playing guitar and shit. But I mean, it was a good song, and it was rocking. I was banging my head to it like crazy at work. Like I literally listened to like the first 5 minutes of it, like my last 5 minutes of the day, and then I went out to my car and finished the last 5 minutes of it on my way to the fucking store to get a couple of drinks, and it was just a good song. So that was my number 1. Even Superman shot himself, because the ironicness of it too, because Superman can shoot himself all he wants, he ain't gonna kill himself. So I get that's like a funny theme to it too. But so yeah, good job, Chancellor. You brought a decent CD. You've been actually a roll lately. I'm a little impressed here. But we'll see. I'm sure you'll fuck it up eventually. But
I will.
I'm still waiting for the nuclear option to drop one of these days, and
I know.
I'm sure I'm gonna hate that day. But well, folks, we brought you these albums 3 as always. Fucking hour 45 minutes in almost. Jesus Christ, we really dragged this one out a little bit, but we were talking music and we were having a good time, so no complaints here. And if Chancy has complaints, well, fuck them. But but Blake, tell our audiences where they can find you, where they can find your music. Just promote yourself to the fullest, man.
So my website is www.blakeisbell.com. That is BlakeIsbell.com, and there you can find physical versions of the album, and you can also find a nice little way to communicate. You can send me a message on there, and I respond to all of the messages that are sent to me. So if you have any personal questions or like there's something you ever want to say to me or reach out, that's probably the best place to do it. And then to find my music, it is on all streaming platforms. So if you have YouTube has some lyric videos and music videos, and then Apple Music, Spotify, all the good things. And then my third album was accepted to Pandora, which surprised me because apparently Pandora is selective with what they allow on their platform. So I thought that was interesting. I was like, okay, you chose my third album. Nice. I don't know why you didn't choose my second album. I feel like that's arguably more commercial, in my opinion. But it was an honor. I was like, hey, I'm on Pandora. And it was a moment. So that I didn't know that a moment that I didn't know that I needed to have. So Pandora listeners, third album's on there. And then for socials, at Blake Isbell Music, Instagram, and then Facebook is also Blake Isbell Music. And those are my plugs.
Well, I mean, now you know how Zeus feels. You got on Pandora, just don't open that box because then we'll all be fucked. But I will say thank you for coming on, buddy. It's been an amazing show, and I love that you actually did the homework. A lot of artists don't do that. They just kind of say they didn't get shit, and when they did, so
what do they do?
You.
If you don't do it, then like what do they just sit there and not give a top 5
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh wow.
But yeah. But and you are more than welcome to come back on any time. We will gladly, whenever you want to, whenever you have an album coming out, or if you want to bring on one of your old albums, whatever, or you want to bring on someone who inspired you, we are forced to listen to anything. So, but I mean,
oh yeah, we're doing Taylor Swift next. It's a joke. I know you don't like Taylor Swift. It's fine.
I don't hate her. I guarantee if you brought an album on, I'd have a top 5. I guarantee it. But I just I don't like the popularity. That's the thing. I am not a person who likes popular things, so I do not like popularity. I like people who are hated, people who are not even qualified as like real musicians, even though they are. Like that's the way I go. That's the way I go. But yeah, you're welcome back anytime. Anytime you got something new you want to promote, feel free to hit me up. We can always work something out to get you back on. And Chancy, where can they find you besides wallowing as the human fly?
Well, Instagram and TikTok is the Red Eye Roundtable. X is Red Eye Table. And, Facebook, the scavenger hunt is still afoot. I have not yet been found again on this as of yet. As of yet, I'm not throwing it out. I'm not throwing the baby out of the bathwater just yet. I'm sure it'll happen, and when I least expect it, and somebody will bring me something that they know that I'll have to bring on the show, but will begrudgingly do so. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me on that.
Damn, I thought when you checked your message request and shit, that someone would have found you, but
nope.
Not.
Nope.
Well, you can find both your musers folks as uncensored, untamed, and unapologetic U-Cubed Podcast Collective on Facebook. You can find us on the Gram and X Baby as Agile Bastard. You can find us on TikTok as Agile Bastard Podcast. And you can find us on YouTube as Maniacal Music Musings, where we stream live every week. And be sure to check out, we'll be off next week, folks. It's the wifey's birthday, so, if I record, I'm going to be dead. So, I'd rather not be dead. So, we'll take a week off. We just did 2 episodes in a row in the last 3 days, so we got content, no worries. And we'll be back not this Saturday, but the following Saturday with the final part of the Rolling Stones Top 500 Songs bracket. Fucking God. 7 months of work finally coming to a conclusion, and it's going to be interesting. So come check that out, and then we'll be back that following Tuesday with a normal episode like always. But until next time, your musers, thank you for tuning in and checking us out, and for all those who watched, thank you, and we'll be back in 2 weeks for a regular episode. Have a good one.